It's been almost 1 year since Egyptians overthrew a 30-year dictatorship. But their anger has only intensified. These protesters say repression has only increased under the military junta that replaced Hosni Mubarak last February. The protest is part of a campaign known as Kazaboun, or Liars in Arabic, which seeks to expose crimes committed by state security forces. The Kazaboun rallies encourage residents to join the fight against the military council. This march eventually culminates in a public screening of videos of abuses committed by the state, juxtaposed with commentary from the military council denying their crimes.
انتهاكات المجلس العسكري انتهاكات الجيش اللي بيعملها لان الناس تعتبر مغيبه وبتسمع فقط لراي واحد وهو التلفزيون المصري والتلفزيون المصري اللي وقف ضد الثوره واقف ضد الثوار برضه دلوقتي وللاسف الناس لسه مصدقينه.
The Kazaboun marches have been attacked and screening locations destroyed by unknown assailants. Protesters say they are pro-government thugs. Women outnumber men at this Kazaboun gathering. The organizers consider putting off the march to avoid endangering the women, but the women refuse, all of them determined to march. Along the way, stencil artists quietly slip away from the march to color the city's walls with their political artwork. They must move quickly to avoid being detained by state security forces or attacked by thugs. Meanwhile, protesters leaflet through the traffic, calling on Egyptians to take to the streets again on January 25th, this time not against Mubarak, but against the military regime that replaced him. As the march makes its way down the main boulevard, organizers decide to risk entering the adjacent neighborhoods. As expected, the march is suddenly attacked.
Sorry, we're getting attacked. عارفة أنا كنت ماشية ولقيتهم بيجروا فأكيد ناس اتهجموا علينا زي كل مرة. كانوا فاكرين إن إحنا بنخاف، أنا عايزة أقول لهم أنتوا أغبياء لأن إحنا كده
But the violence only emboldens the protesters as they continue their march. Onlookers watch, photograph, and join the march as it roars through the neighborhood. Kazaboun has held screenings in cities all over the world. Kazaboun is part of a project of Musireen, a media collective at the forefront of the media war being waged by state media propaganda, whitewashing crimes committed against Egyptians since the revolution.
We're preparing for the 25th. We are basically providing trainings for people who usually do reporting from the streets, trying to get them better at making videos and using their cell phones and making a short video, being able to edit their own video after it's done, or how to react and when there's danger around you, how to do live streaming, some basic training just to prepare for that day. In November, actually, a few of the people in the Mussolini network cameras were confiscated and destroyed by the army to prevent them from taking videos of the army raiding Tahrir Square. So definitely, we know that Mussolini is in danger, but just part of the revolution. You can't win a revolution without risking something.
However, despite documentation of violence against activists and protesters, not all Egyptians are convinced state security forces are the perpetrators. At this protest in Abbasiyya, thousands voiced their support for the ruling military council and condemned Tahrir revolutionaries. Since the military council came to power after Mubarak's ouster in February of last year, attacks against protesters have escalated. Month after month, Egyptians were attacked in Tahrir Square. Nearly 1,000 people were killed and thousands more were injured by state security forces throughout 2011. Washington reaffirmed its support for the military junta's so-called transition to democracy. President Obama recently called and congratulated the field marshal for parliamentary elections, although human rights abuses have only worsened since Mubarak's ouster and the handover to a civilian government remains ambiguous. Egypt's deteriorating economic situation was also part of the conversation. IMF loans initially rejected by the military council due to public outcry against foreign loans and increased debts are now on the negotiating table with both the military council and the country's leading Islamist group, the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood was a major player in the January 25th revolution. But since then, the organization cooperated with the military council, participating in elections and refusing to endorse street protests against the regime. They have reaped the benefits at the polls. The Brotherhood and the ultra-conservative Salafists took more than 70% of the parliaments, while secular parties won barely 20% of the vote. Offshoots of Mubarak's National Democratic Party secured 4% of the seats, while the military council will appoint 10 representatives. The elections were seen as a political victory for the Islamists and also the ruling military council. Elections have not stopped the protests. Violence raged near Tahrir both before and after the first round of polling last month, leaving thousands injured and dozens killed. Ambiguous concessions by the military council to appease ongoing workers' strikes and protests against their rule mean nothing for the families of Egypt's countless martyrs.
والأسرة كلها كانت بتنزل من يوم 25 العام الماضي. من بداية المظاهرات الأسرة احنا 7 أفراد بننزل 7 أفراد. شاء القدر إننا ننزل 6 فقط. 6 أفراد بننزل. إن شاء الله روح الشهيد هتكون معانا.
Activists marked the last Friday before the January 25th anniversary with the March of Martyrs, in commemoration of those killed during and since the revolution. The march started from Giza, 10 miles from Tahrir Square, and made its way towards the downtown. Along the way, activists leafleted political literature, graffitied walls, and encouraged Egyptians to join the march. After 4 hours of marching, hundreds streamed into Tahrir Square. They were welcomed by thousands. However, not everyone is preparing to mark the revolution with continued resistance to the government. The military council will hold an army celebration to mark the anniversary, claiming the revolution as their victory, while the Islamists triumph over elections that brought them to power following the uprising. As for those who fought and lost loved ones, they will take to the streets in hopes of convincing Egyptians the revolution is far from over. Jehan Hafiz for The Real News in Cairo, Egypt.